the birthplace of Mozart, the home of the sound of music, castles, and some incredible food. Welcome to Salzburg, Austria.
Salzburg, Austria was founded as a Roman settlement called Levavum in 15 BC. After the fall of Rome, Catholic Bishop Rupert founded a Benedictine monastery called St. Peter's in 696, and that was the birth of Salzburg, Austria. The name Salzburg means salt castle. People have been mining salt around the area for over 2,600 years. In fact, salt mining still goes on today. Salzburg is famous for its Baroque architecture and as Mozart's birthplace. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a center for music, history, and of course, tourism. Hey, it's Mark with Any Way You Travel. We film this beautiful world and share it with you so you can decide where you'd like to visit. If you're a returning viewer, we're glad to have you back. And if you're new to the channel, we hope you'll settle in and relax as we explore Salzburg, Austria. After you get off the train in Salzburg and head toward Old Town, one of the first things you come to is a palace.
Behind me is the Mirabell Palace and Garden. Now, it was built in 1606 by a prince/archbishop who didn't have the best moral values. He had his mistress living there with him. He built it as his private residence, and together they had several children. Well, later after his downfall, it was taken over by another archbishop who restored it and named it Mirabell, which came from two Italian words which meant honorable and admirable. And now it is the garden that everybody loves to go in.
The Mirabell Palace, or Schloss Mirabell in German, and its gardens are among Salzburg's most iconic landmarks. As I mentioned, the palace was built by Prince/Archbishop Wolf Dietrich von Rathenow as a gesture of love to his mistress, and it was a private residence for her and their children. After Dietrich was deposed and put in prison, over the years the palace was redesigned into the Baroque style. But an 1818 fire totally destroyed the palace. It was later rebuilt in the neoclassical style you see now. The beautiful gardens were first designed in 1689. Today, the Mirabell Palace houses the Salzburg municipal government, and it's a popular location for weddings and events. As you continue into the old city, you'll cross the Stadt Brucke, or the city bridge, that crosses over the Salzach River and connects the newer part of Salzburg to the old city. And just down from the Stadt Brucke is the Markartsteg, named for famed Salzburg artist Hans Markart. It's also known for all the locks that are on the bridge. According to tradition, if you put a lock on the bridge and throw the key in the river, you'll find true love. Okay, let's talk about Salzburg's most famous citizen. This beautiful city was the birthplace and home to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mozart was born in this house on January 27, 1756. He was a musical prodigy. He composed his first piece at age 5. He was a prolific composer of operas, symphonies, concertos, and chamber music. Despite his musical genius, Mozart struggled financially most of his life. He died in 1791 at the age of 35. There are several theories about why Mozart died so young. Some said his doctor was responsible for his death. Mozart told his wife he believed he had been poisoned, but most doctors believe a staph infection led to kidney complications. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart left an enduring legacy and is one of history's greatest composers.
Behind me with that spectacular rainbow and the clear sky over the top of it is College Church. It was built between 1694 and 1707. And rumor has it, according to Salzburg folklore, that Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart played there. And you know what? It could very well be, because it's right across the square from his place of birth.
The church served as a place of worship for the Benedictine University of Salzburg. It was designed in the Baroque style. Its beautiful white interior and facade was intended to reflect spiritual purity. It remains a landmark of Salzburg's ecclesiastical and architectural heritage. You know, it's really kind of cool and amazing to walk on the same floor on which Mozart walked. And of course, in Salzburg, it seems like Mozart is everywhere. From the Mozart Cafe, at which we did not eat, to statues of Mozart. And there's even a candy store named after the composer. Next, we headed into the Altstadt, or the Old City. This was and is the main square of Salzburg. During Mozart's day, and even today, it's where things are happening. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's known for its well-preserved medieval and Baroque architecture. This is also the site of the main Christmas market during the holiday season. So if you're all about Christmas, you'll want to visit this place. And this is the meteorological pillar. It was the city's first weather center in the late 1800s. Installed by the Salzburg City Association, it's been telling the citizens of Salzburg the temperature, humidity, and barometric pressure since 1888. Just south of the Stadt is Salzburg's main cathedral, and it is amazing. Behind me is the beautiful Salzburg Cathedral, built originally in 774 AD. After a fire and reconstruction, the current structure was built in 1628. It's famous for its beautiful arches, and it was the place where Mozart was baptized. Finally completed in 1657, the Salzburg Cathedral is a stunning example of Baroque architecture. It's known for its majestic interiors, large dome, and it was the place of Mozart's baptism. In fact, this is the very font used to baptize him. Just northeast of the Stadt is Mozart Plaza. Here you'll find the Salzburg Museum, Mozart's statue, and the Salzburg Christmas Museum, where you can learn about the traditions that go with a Salzburg Christmas, including that mean brute of a beast, Krampus. There's a link to our video on the Salzburg Christmas market in the description below, where you can learn more about Krampus. Just off the Old Town Plaza, you'll run into something that's pretty doggone cool. Check out this huge water wheel in the middle of Salzburg. Why would there be a water wheel in the middle of Salzburg? Because it's driving an 800-year-old grist mill, and this grist mill has been busy for 8 centuries, making flour for the Striff's Bakery. That's right, this bakery has been in existence for 800 years in the same location, making incredible breads for the citizens of Salzburg. This is a store named Kopfburger. Now, it's not that there's anything special about what the store sells. It sells basic souvenirs, cuckoo clocks, and Christmas things during the holiday season. But what makes this store special is this hook that's 1,200 years old, and the ceiling that's 1,200 years old. Amazingly, 1,200 years ago, this used to be a blacksmith shop, and this back room was the stable. And this room was where he would shoe the horses and make other items for his customers. Isn't it cool to walk down a city street and find a building with such history? It was late and time to head back to the hotel. Okay, our second day in Salzburg started out rainy, but we were determined to make the best of it. So, first we went to St. Peter's Cemetary. This is part of the St. Peter's Church and St. Peter's Monastery, and this is the birthplace of Salzburg, because this monastery was the first thing built here in 696 after the fall of Rome, making it one of the oldest monasteries in the German-speaking world. You'll notice how beautiful the cemetery area is, and that's because it's kind of a tradition in Austria, Germany, and other European countries that about once a month or so, on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, you go to the cemetery and visit the grave of your loved one and make sure that everything's well kept, groomed, and perhaps bring some fresh flowers to decorate the grave. This is St. Peter's Church. This particular building was built in 1491. The Roman Catholic Church blends Romanesque style with Baroque and Rococo elements. The beautiful interior of the church is adorned with ornate stucco, gilded decor, and beautiful carvings and frescoes. As you exit the church, you can see parts of the beautiful St. Peter's Monastery. Despite the cold, rainy weather, we were determined to make it to the Salzburg Fortress.
Behind me up on the hill is the Hohensalzburg Fortress. It was built in 1077, and over the years it's been expanded. Let's go up and take a look.
You start your trip out here. This is where you get your tickets for the funicular. Now, if you're daring, you can hike up there, but that wasn't on my bucket list. Now, the funicular ride was incredible. It was steep and it's all computer operated. That way the cars coming up and the cars coming down, well, they meet exactly at the same time in the middle and go around each other. I'm not sure why the driver was there, maybe in case of an emergency. As you continue up the hill and start to enter the fortress, it's really incredible feeling. As you exit the funicular, prepare yourself for some incredible sights and amazing views. The Hohensalzburg Fortress is one of the largest and best preserved medieval fortresses in all of Europe. It sits on top of the Festungsberg Hill, and it pretty much dominates Salzburg's skyline. It also offers stunning views of the city and incredible views of the Alps. The fortress was originally commissioned by Archbishop Gebhard von Helfenstein in 1077. It was built during the investiture controversy, which was a conflict between the Pope and the Holy Roman Emperor. It was originally built of wood in an effort to protect the people of the area. During the 1100s, the original wooden structures were replaced with stone fortifications, and soon it would become quite a formidable fortress. Now, if you're adventurous, this is the path you would take to hike up to the fortress and back down again. I didn't see a lot of people doing that. The reason the fortress was so big is that all these windows represented places where the citizens of Salzburg could stay if their town was being attacked. The fortress was a small city behind walls. Speaking of a small city behind walls, this is St. George's Chapel. It was built in 1501 during a major expansion of the fortress when various luxury additions were added to demonstrate the wealth and power of the archbishop/prince. The expansion included a princely palace. It was during this time that the Archbishop of Salzburg began to use the fortress as his home.
Even though it's a cold, rainy day here in Salzburg and up on top of the fortress, the beautiful clouds hanging down over the mountains just makes it all worthwhile.
Remember that stack of cannonballs just a couple moments ago? Well, they made those cannonballs of cement right here in the fortress. If an enemy approached Salzburg, these cannons would be used. Now, while the hills may be alive with the sound of music, you'll notice that we haven't shown you any sites dealing with the movie The Sound of Music. The truth is, most folks from Salzburg don't know anything about The Sound of Music. It's just really not that big a thing here in Salzburg. The Hohensalzburg Fortress also has an extensive museum dedicated to the defenses of the fortress. There are a lot of interesting things to see. There are cannons. There are examples of what the fortress looked like in the medieval era. One of the things I found really interesting was the way in which they did warfare. In the medieval era, soldiers were protected by what they called chainmail, which was kind of like a fishnet hose made out of steel, and they'd wear it over their entire body to protect themselves from knives and swords. After the introduction of armor, and even as armor technology advanced, warriors and knights continued to wear chainmail to protect themselves. Why? Well, between axes, swords, knives, crossbows, and maces, combat could be a dreadfully bloody thing. Even the horses were taken care of with special saddles and steel masks to protect their face. But the museum also had some fun things to do, like you could take your picture and become a knight. Now, Pam had a little bit of difficulty. She's kind of short and she couldn't get her face in the area so the camera could take a picture of her. Now, this is me. I'm a rather handsome knight with my long flowing hair. And Pam finally got her picture taken, and she looked rather serious because she was really having a struggle getting up on her tiptoes. So the reality is, nobody ever really lived here. This was built in case the city of Salzburg got attacked. The citizens could go up to the fortress, fight back, and be protected. Down in the lower level of the fortress were the kitchens. There you would find stone hearths in which to cook, the various accessories needed, and jars in which to store water and cooking oil. Also down in the lower levels is a very interesting marionette museum. Marionettes, or string puppets, date back thousands of years to ancient Egypt. During the medieval era, when the Hohensalzburg Fortress was at its height, marionettes were used to perform biblical stories as a way to teach people who were largely unable to read. In the 1700s and 1800s, the art of marionette performance flourished in Salzburg, and it led to the creation of sophisticated puppet operas and the Marionette Theater, which was established in 1913. You saw the popularity of marionettes in the beloved musical The Sound of Music. The Hohensalzburg Fortress is a must-see when you come to Salzburg, but it was getting late, so we hopped on the vernacular and headed back down. The Hohensalzburg funicular was built in 1892, and it was Austria's first funicular. It was originally powered by water. It was modernized in 2011 with new vehicles and an updated electrical system. Prior to the funicular being built, the only way to get to the fortress was to hoof it by foot. We continued to look around the city, and believe me, there were beautiful things to see at every turn. But it was getting toward evening, and we were getting kind of hungry, so we felt like it was time to scope someplace out to eat. We settled on the Zipfer Beer House. It serves a lot of traditional Austrian food, and it was absolutely delicious. The beer was great, and the restaurant contains something kind of surprising. The building was constructed around the year 1300, making it one of the older buildings in the city. And just a couple hundred years after it was built, well, they decided to dig a well right inside the building. The well was dug in the 1500s. After we finished eating, we took a little bit more time to walk around this beautiful city. We so thoroughly enjoyed our visit here, but it was getting late and we had to catch a 9 p.m. train back to Munich.
Okay, this wraps up our trip to Salzburg, and we had an absolutely fantastic time. What'd you think, honey?
I loved it. Beautiful sights, fantastic food, and just overall, just a great, great trip. I wish we had a little bit more time here, though, to see some more.
It would have been nice to have a couple weeks instead of a couple days. But this gives you an idea of what you can see in Salzburg in just a couple days. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends. Listen, we're glad you were here, and we'll see you next time.